From Boise to Middleton, the 5A and 4A Southern Idaho Conferences feature 20 of the largest schools in Idaho. Highlighting the big plays and big stories from Idaho's biggest schools, this is the SIC Prepcast with Wayne Dzubak.
That's right. Welcome into another edition of the SIC Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down everything going on in the 5A and 4A ranks in the Southern Idaho Conference, District 3 over there in that Boise metro area. Brandon Baney with the guy that's always metro, feeling good. It's Wayne Dzubak. Wayne, what's going on?
A little bit of everything. I mean, we got some football news. We got some wrestling news. Of course, basketball's hot right now, both boys and girls. So really, I mean, there's a lot to talk about on this Prepcast.
Absolutely. Well, I think the biggest story that we got to tackle right away this week is the Rollie Lane Invitational. It is the signature wrestling event every year in the state of Idaho, outside of the state championships, of course. But in terms of regular season competition, there's not any better. And it was really cool to see all the teams come and compete, not just from Idaho, but Washington, Montana, other states as well this past weekend over in Nampa.
Yeah, it had 75 total teams from 7 states. It's the 21st annual Rollie Lane. And the thing of it is that you got to think of it. If you ever watched the movie Hoosiers, in basketball, where they basically, that tournament there in Indiana was everybody, the big schools, the little schools, the in-between schools, everybody played. That's pretty much what the Rollie Lane Wrestling Tournament's all about. From 5A to 2A, you get out there, you compete, you go after it, you see what happens, and, it's super. So at any rate, they did that, and that's 5A to 2A. They also had the girls this year, and this is the third year in a row, but this is the first year that it was sanctioned.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the girls' competition a little bit because there were a couple of standout performers from the Treasure Valley. You had Mia Furman from Rocky Mountain. She won the title at 138 pounds, but Marissa Jimenez from Caldwell, she has now won 3 times at the Rollie Lane, twice as a non-sanctioned and then officially sanctioned this year. She won the 132-pound title. And now, Wayne, she is the 3rd-ranked female wrestler in the country at that weight, 132 pounds.
Yeah, she's unbelievable. If you want me to take this, you know what? When I started this, we had a cloudy day, so I just had the shades open. Now I kind of look like I'm in prison. I can take care of that in about 3 seconds.
Okay, let's do it.
Folks, watch how this works. This is the magic of podcast. Hold on. Okay. All right. How about that?
Oh, that looks so much better, Wayne. So
better. I start things when it's all cloudy outside and thick and good, and then the sun shines. I mean, and that's just what happens when we start doing a podcast. The sun shines on us. It's amazing.
Yeah, you look quite radiant. If you want to see the magic in action, to see Wayne go from striped to solid, you can, of course, watch the video version of this podcast on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook page. Audio only, also available at IdahoSports.com and wherever you download your podcasts. So, yeah, let's again.
You were talking about Marissa Jimenez. Well, and she won that 132-pound class, but she has just done it year after year after year. She's something else.
Yeah, and then as we said, she's now ranked 3rd in the entire country in her weight class, which is just remarkable.
And you got to speak to how far, girls wrestling has come in the short time it's been, available here in Idaho. I mean, really, this is the 3rd year in a row they've had it at the Rollie Lane, and the first time it's been sanctioned. So every year, a little step towards, equality and things going in the right direction. And how cool is that? I think it's really neat that they have that opportunity, and it's getting better and better and better. For instance, Eagle finished 2nd in the team competition to Flathead, Montana, but it was a close one, 101 for Flathead, Montana, 98 points for Eagle. So it was a 3-point, wrestling match overall through 3 days. So it's pretty cool what they got done there.
Yeah, impressive that the Eagle girls took 2nd as a team. They did not have a single individual champion.
No, they didn't. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just about teamwork and kind of finishing up there as high as you can go. And so they had a lot of higher finishers, but nobody kind of came through and won the whole thing. The other local winner was Christina Padilla out of Nampa. She won at 182. So, I mean, we had 3 local winners, and I think that's pretty cool. And Flathead, Montana, I mean, they won the boys competition as well. They just came down here. I guess there's not much to do in the winter in Montana except wrestle, right? I mean, that's what I'm thinking, because they're pretty good.
Yeah, Flathead High School up in Kalispell, Montana, pretty well known for their wrestling program. They've sent a lot of guys on to and now gals on to big time colleges. So no surprises there. On the boys' side, there was a lot of really awesome performances, Wayne. I think we have to start with the Martinos from Bishop Kelly, though.
Yeah, Matthew Martino, I mean, he won at 113 pounds, and I mean, what a job he did just getting in there, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and then, of course, Christopher Martino also came away with a title at 132 pounds as well. Other individual champions from the 5A, 4A ranks, Tanner Frothinger of Eagle took first at 120. You had Jason Mara from Meridian at 138. And then you had Carson Gooley from Meridian at 195, and Nico Rodriguez from Columbia winning the big weights at 285.
Yeah, 285, and he beat a kid out of Borah. So you basically had two kids from the locally that got in here. Aiden Atayo, I hope that's how I say his name, but they went overtime. I mean, they had to go a couple overtimes to get that thing done. But, I mean, how cool is that you got all these teams, you got 75 teams coming in from all across 7 states from the Northwest. And you got in that big weight class of 285, you got 2 local guys going at it for a couple of overtimes.
Yeah, and Christopher Martino from Bishop Kelly beat Kyle Rice from New Plymouth. I know that's not in our wheelhouse, but man, what an epic battle that was.
No, it was. And then Seth Glenn from Fruitland won at 160. So, you really got a lot of local guys that are doing it. And even though they're not 5A, 4A, we got to throw a shout out to those guys because after all, like we said, it's the Hoosiers of wrestling. It really is when you got 5A, 2A all the way across the board. I mean, how fun is it if you're going to a 5A or a 2A school and then you get a chance to take on one of the top wrestlers in all of high school, in all of the Northwest. And that's what it's all about. And that's what the Rollie Lane has brought for 21 years and brings a lot of excitement.
Yeah. Team race went to Flathead from Kalispell, 231. Meridian took second at 206. Now, I always say, Wayne, the teams that do well here, the 5A, 4A teams that do well at the Rollie Lane is usually a pretty good predictor of who's going to do well and maybe even win at state. Meridian won the Rollie Lane last year. They also won the 5A title. Meridian competed very closely with Flathead, and in fact, the distance between Meridian in second place and Coeur d'Alene in third, which would be maybe their strongest 5A competition, was pretty significant. 206 for Meridian, 152 for Coeur d'Alene. So my question to you is, how do you feel about Meridian's chances to maybe defend their 5A crown based upon this performance?
Based on this performance, obviously fantastic. I mean, I really do feel they really hung in there with Flathead. And the fact that we mentioned already that Flathead not only won the boys, but they won the girls competition. They are all about wrestling at Flathead. They really got a great program there. Over the years, they built it up to a nationally renowned program. So when you can compete like that with them in that tournament, I think, Meridian's going to be a factor all the way through, no question about it. So, and like I say, there was a big distance, big gap between Meridian and Coeur d'Alene. So that kind of gives you an idea of where, the power struggle is going to be.
Certainly. Keep your eyes posted to IdahoSports.com. We're pretty excited to be partnering up with Al Fontes. He's a great journalist who's covered the sport of wrestling for many, many years over in the state of California. He moved to Idaho last year and has been doing a great job writing lots of articles about the wrestling scene in Idaho. So we're partnering up with Al. He's going to write some content for us at IdahoSports.com. He just emailed me a huge write-up he did on the Rollie Lane, and we're going to be posting that on our website. So as you're listening to this, go to the homepage at IdahoSports.com, and you'll probably see the big recap from Rollie Lane. He did a great job covering that for us.
Yeah, he really does. And that's going to be cool because sometimes wrestling does get lost in all the basketball hoopla. It really does. And so it's there. And that's what the Rollie Lane's all about. It kind of brings the spotlight right back to wrestling where it needs to be. And then we sometimes don't talk much about it until we get right down to the state tournament or district play. So it's nice to have somebody like that with IdahoSports.com keeping us on our toes.
Yeah, it's going to be a great read for everybody, and especially those wrestling diehards. Let's move on to basketball. Let's start on the boys' side. There was a lot of compelling boys' basketball action this past week, and I think we have to start. We usually start with the 5As, but I think we got to start with the 4As here, Wayne, because the big matchup that everybody had circled was Middleton at Bishop Kelly last week, and that game did not disappoint.
No, it didn't. It went right down to the wire, 60-55. Middleton won it. And I think the big surprise for me is not that Middleton won it. Well, actually, I take that back. It is that Middleton won it because it was at Bishop Kelly. So they play again later on in the year at Middleton, which really puts the onus on Middleton, gives them kind of in the driver's seat right now in that race for that 4A SIC. But the bottom line is that, Middleton played well. I believe I'm trying to remember all the scoring, but I'm losing it here a little bit. But, Tyler Medeiros, I think, did a really good job. I think he had a double-double. He had like 11 rebounds, 13, 14 points. So really just a good night for Middleton on the road at BK.
Yeah, I read a good recap of that game in the Idaho Statesman over in Boise, and they talked to Nate Hartman, the coach at Middleton, and they basically asked him the question of like, well, isn't it kind of intimidating going into Bishop Kelly with the great atmosphere and the crowd they have and that? And he said, yeah, but we use that to our advantage. I told our guys to use that as fuel and use that as a motivator, and it got them fired up, and they made enough plays down the stretch to win.
Nate Hartman, really, I met him a couple of weeks ago, talked to him at length up in the stands there. His wife was there. His kids were there. He's just a young guy from Idaho Falls and came over here, taking over for Andy Harrington, who left to go to Hawaii, and a lot of expectations at Middleton to continue that excellence that Andy Harrington left. And he's done a great job. He's picked it right up where he left off and doing a great job. They're 8-1 overall in the year and 3-0 in league right now. So, yeah, he's done a good job at with what he has and how he's making things happen. He's got Michael Day, the young kid, 6'10". I think he's just brought him along perfectly, and they're just all meshing right now.
Yeah, he's a really good coach, good, sharp, young basketball mind for sure. So, yeah, Middleton's still in first place as we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. And again, by the time you're listening to this, the standings may have changed. That's why you should just go to IdahoSports.com every day, get the latest scores and updated standings. But Bishop Kelly is 3-1 in the league, 7-4 overall. And Valley View quietly has kind of turned it around. They're 7-3 overall, 2-1 in the league. And Valley View has a big game at home against Middleton Friday night.
Yeah, they are. They're hanging right in there, Valley View. So that's going to be a big one. And you're right. At home, who knows what's going to happen there. Valley View wins that game, turns it all around, gets BK right back into the thick of things, even though they're not totally out of it. But nobody's out of it yet. But the thing that's interesting about that particular 4A SIC is that then you've got Emmett, Napa, Ridgeview, and Caldwell all at 1 and 2, in league play. So everybody else is kind of down there. And then you got the 3 up here. And so we'll see what they do. It's going to be a big game coming up later this week.
Yeah, that'll be a huge one for Valley View, and can go from up somewhat contender to real contender. With
right there.
Yeah, for sure. 5A SIC continues to be unpredictable. Everybody's kind of beating up on each other, Wayne. You've got a 3-way tie for first place right now. Eagle, Owyhee, and Centennial are all 5-1, and Meridian very quietly is a half game back at 4-1.
Yeah, Eagle actually picked up a game last night. They played a crazy game last night. They played Boise and beat Boise 69-42 over here. That game is really a weird game. I'm not sure how to figure it out because it was actually set for like a Sunday, but it was played last night, and Eagle won it and improving to 6-1 with that win. So now you've got Owyhee and Centennial at 5-1, and Owyhee plays Mountain View tonight. Mountain View sitting at 3-2, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, Mountain View has hit. On the surface it looks like, oh man, Mountain View's hit a bit of a rough patch. But if you look at their losses, they've all been really close. I mean, they've lost now 4 of their last 5 overall. They lost to Orem, Utah by 12, but other than that, they lost to Thunder Ridge by 3. They lost to Centennial at the very end on a bucket. They lost by 2, 51-49, and they lost by a single point to Meridian, again, kind of on a late play, 40-39. So Mountain View, I think, they're just fine.
Yeah, I did that game the other day. Ramos just made a nice move to the bucket to put it up with 3.9 seconds to go for Meridian. Meridian was in dire need of a victory. They had you talk about rough patch, they had hit a rough patch, trying to figure out who to come in here, what to do. I mean, Jeff Sainer at Meridian is playing everybody, Brandon. He's got Zeke Martinez playing a lot now. He's just the freshman we talked about a lot during the football season. TJ Sainer, his kid coming off the bench, hitting some big threes. He's trying everybody. Big story in that game was that Davis Thacker came back from an injury. It was the first time he's played all year. So that was good to have him back if you're a Meridian fan. So, I think he's 6'4", and he is an athlete and a half. So Meridian won that game at home, but it was right down to the get-go. And I think tonight's game with Hawaii is going to go right down to the get-go too. So I'm looking forward to doing that one. A lot of people talking about what Hawaii has for their first year. I mean, everybody talking about Liam Campbell, who is, just a sophomore, talking about Jackson Rasmussen, who was just a freshman, Jack Payne, the senior, is there. Mac Saavedra, who is just a freshman, that's their point guard. All these guys are young, and Andy Harrington's done a good job of making them grow up pretty quick.
I love the 5A SIC for boys basketball because every night is a can't miss game. Even though there's teams at the bottom of the standings, they all have stars on their teams, and that's what makes every game so compelling.
Well, it's like early in the year, I did a Centennial Hawaii game, and Hawaii just killed Centennial. And I sat there and I went, man, I thought Centennial was better than that. Maybe Hawaii is just this fantastic team, but then it all kind of came back full circle. And Centennial is right now back at 5-1. They're playing their best ball of the year, and they're back exactly where I thought they would be at the beginning of the year. So, I counted them out on one game, which I shouldn't have done, because we all know one game doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, Centennial was picked to finish fifth in the preseason coaches poll, and that I kind of scratched my head when I saw that, and I was like, I don't know about that, but I should learn that the coaches know what they're talking about, right?
Yeah, they do, but they've gotten right there. They're back in the fray with it, and Meridian's right there too. They despite the fact they've lost 8 players from last year, including Brody Roberry, the Player of the Year, they have found a way. They've had some injuries. They found a way to kind of patch it back together again, Jeff has. And like I say, I did 3 of their games in a row because it was that North-South challenge. So we had Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, and Lake City come down. So we just sat there and did that. It wasn't that we picked Meridian. We just said, hey, let's stay there and we can get to see all 3 North teams. That'll be fun. Then I did the Meridian Mountain View game the other day. So that's 4 Meridian games. And the lineup hasn't been the same. I mean, they had a couple guys there, but Jeff Sainer is really kind of working that lineup, trying to figure out what to do. And now with David Thacker back, as I mentioned, watch out. Meridian, the defending 5A state champs, could become a factor real quick. And we'll find out. They play Hawaii Friday night, and I do that game as well.
Yeah, it's going to be such a fun game. And I think people forgot. They said, oh, Meridian lost all these guys.
Yeah.
They're going to take us. But the guy they brought back is Jeff Sainer, who's a good coach, a really good coach.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's been around for a long time, and everybody knows him in his valley. Played for Boise High, played for Boise State. He knows basketball, and if anybody can fix something, he can put a fix to it.
Certainly. So there's a lot of big games on the docket. You mentioned Hawaii and Mountain View playing Tuesday night, Meridian and Hawaii. And then another one I'm looking at is Centennial at Eagle on Saturday night. I think that'll be an interesting boys matchup as well.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, that right there, so that'll tell us a lot about Centennial. Because if the Centennial can go into Eagle and play the Mustangs tough at Eagle, that'll tell us a whole lot about Centennial, if they're for real or if they are that 5th place team that the coaches picked them to finish.
Yep. Let's move to girls basketball in the 5A ranks. The big battle last week was a rematch of the top 2 teams, Timberline against Borah. Timberline won the first matchup in the season opener, 44-37, and they also won the rematch, 36-27.
Yeah, I called that game, and boy, I tell you what, Sophia Glancy, she's 6'2", she's down low for Timberline. Really, what a factor down there. In fact, I was talking to the Timberline coach, and he was giving me kind of this line that, well, we don't match up real well with Borah because we got skinny girls, and they're a little bit more stout, Well, I tell you what, Sophia Glancy, she's 6'2", she's stout, and I mean that in the most positive way. She can play down low in the low post. And then they got a sophomore named Allie Cox, who's 6'1", and she's stout as well. And then they went to the double low post with those 2 late in the game. Problem was both those gals got 3 fouls early in the ball game, so they couldn't put them both in at the same time. When they did, Timberline was unbeatable. And that's when they just kind of ran away from Borah, and that game went back and forth. They held Borah scoreless in the first period. I think it was either 7-0 or 6-0 after the first period of that game. It wasn't a pretty game, and then it just kind of settled into a contest later on. But Timberline's for real. They're 10-0 in league, 14-1 overall, and they may not be. Somebody told me that the media and the coaches are disagreeing on who's number 1. They got Lake City in one poll and Timberline in the other. So, I mean, this is what makes it fun because we'll find out come state tourney time.
That's right. I'll tell you, as a member of the media, I have voted Lake City 1 only because they went down to Las Vegas and competed in the Tarkanian Classic, the Jerry Tarkanian, and they almost won. They almost won the thing. They lost by 2 in the championship, and they're playing teams from California, Nevada, all over. So, Timberline is very good, though, certainly.
Yeah, well, I think that's great. Lake City, they got the #1 boys team, #1 girls team. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, you talk about programs that are really putting it together. I mean, that's super. We thought about Flathead, Montana, and their wrestling programs, the girls and the guys. Lake City's getting it done. But you're right. Timberline will give them a tussle. And if they can get Allie Cox and Sophia Glancy down low at the same time, and keep them out of foul trouble, they'll be a factor.
Yeah, and bad news for all the opposing. Lake City is a very young team on the girls' side. They got a lot of juniors and sophomores, so they might be around for a while. So now that Borah has fallen twice to Timberline, they've actually been passed up in the standings by Boise. I tell you what, Coach Kim Bridges and the Brave have been very quietly going about their business. They entered this week on a 5-game winning streak.
They're 9-2 in league, so they're right there. They're only 2 games behind Timberline, and they get to play. I'll do that game. I can't remember what the date is. It's down the road just a little bit, about a week from now. But I'll be doing that Boise Timberline game this week on Saturday at 3:00 in the afternoon on IdahoSports.com. I'll be doing Borah at Mountain View. It looked like that was going to be a really tight game and a really big game in the league. Well, Mountain View has run into a lot of troubles. I mean, they have hit the injury hurdle big time. Sierra Grizzle right now is hurt again. So, I mean, she's hurt. And we knew about, Ojukwu and, so it's just one of those things where every time you turn around, bad news coming Mountain View's way. And so that the defending 5A state champs are in a world of hurt. They're just trying to get through it and weather it, maybe get into districts, get into state, see if they get some people back. So we'll see what happens there. But that should be a good game Saturday afternoon at 3:00. When Borah plays at Mountain View, and Mountain View can come up with a victory there that'll keep them right where they need to be.
Yeah, and of course Mountain View's got some pretty good coaches on their bench as well. Timberline, Boise, Borah kind of have established themselves as the top 3, and then you've got Eagle, Mountain View, Owyhee, and Rocky Mountain. They're all tied for 4th. They're all 6-5 in the league, so districts could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how do you seed them? I mean, you just do the best you can, and then that's where you make hay. You just win. You try to get to state. That's the bottom line. Just try to get a state tournament berth, and if you just get through all these injuries, we'll see what happens. So I'm really liking. We're excited because we're doing more girls games this year than we ever have, and it really has kept me in tune with what's going on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I think it's so important to spotlight because there's so many great teams and players on the girls' side that don't always get their due. So districts, looking down the road just a little bit, District 3 will get 4.5 teams to state. So the 4 teams that finish in the top 4, and then the 5th place team from districts will go to a play-in game. I will say that the play-in game is going to be difficult because they're going to play the 2nd place team from the north, which could be Lake City, Coeur d'Alene, or Post Falls. All of those teams, by the way, really good. Lake City's 14-1, Post Falls is 14-2, Coeur d'Alene's 12-3. So you want to stay out of that play-in game to go to state.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to be some incentive to do that as well. And I agree with you. That's going to be a tough one to win if you're that team that has to go to the play-in. So yeah, keep that in mind. But you're right. With Eagle, Mountain View, and Owyhee all sitting there, and they're all solid teams. I mean, they're not bad at all. It's just that the competition has been so good this year here in the Valley that it's tough to win on any given night. The only one that's done it consistently right now has been Timberline, of course, and Boise's doing it pretty well right now.
Yep. 4A girls basketball. Again, there's not a ton to talk about, only because there's really good teams at the top and then kind of a drop-off. Middleton, 7-0 in the league. They've won 7 in a row. Now, they're only 8-6 overall, but they played a really hard schedule. What do you make of this race?
Well, I knew Middleton would be really good, and of course they've got BK. That game's coming up on the 19th with BK and Middleton. That game, I think, is at Middleton. So BK plays over there at Middleton. That's going to be tough to win at Middleton, but it's going right down to the wire. I mean, and then you got Columbia at 5-2, Emmett at 4-3 in league play. But it really is the Middleton BK show. It's going to be one of those two guys. And then I think it could be I really do think it could be an interesting district competition with all those teams going after each other, because I really don't think, right now it looks good for Middleton, 7-0. But boy, I've seen Columbia play well. I know BK can win on any given night, and Emmett is right there on the precipice of being a very good, solid team.
I do, and I still think Columbia is kind of the wild card in this whole thing.
I agree.
They lost in Middleton by 12. They lost to Bishop Kelly at home by 9. They'll get both of those teams again coming up back to back, actually, on the schedule. Middleton on the 21st of January, BK on the 26th. So that could define Columbia's season right there. We'll probably talk about that more next week.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
It's always fun to jump ahead, take a look. Like I was already looking for that Boise Timberline girls game down the road, and so I'll wait. I'll wait till next week.
Definitely. Well, let's wrap up the Prepcast this week with a little bit of breaking news, Wayne. We had some news come across like just before we hit record today.
Yep, Brian Compton, the new head football coach at Mountain View High School, replacing Judd Benedict. Of course, he coached at Mountain View for many years, was the head coach at Timberline for years, played his ball at Boise High School, and coached at Boise High. So he's been around the Valley for a long time. And Tucker Robick, who, if you may recall, if you watched that FCS championship game on Saturday, Montana State lost to North Dakota State. Tucker Robick had to jump in there when Montana State's quarterback got hurt, played 98% of the game, I think. And but Tucker just tweeted out a little while ago that nobody better than Brian Compton to be named the new head coach at Mountain View. So that's some pretty high praise from a former quarterback at Mountain View High School. He said that Coach Compton has done just as much off the field for the players as he's done on the field. So, that's kind of cool. Brian Compton replacing Judd Benedict, who had been there for, 15 years? I hate to say that. I get them mixed up because we had a lot of longtime coaches leaving this year. And, we talked about how it's kind of been this gradual changing of the guard, and more than 50% of the league now have coaches that have been there for 5 years or less. So. Yeah. So anyway, that's going to be kind of cool, Brian Compton, but he'll come back. He was the offensive coordinator at Mountain View for many, many years. So he knows what's going on. He knows what that program is all about. And he knows the expectations of that program to keep winning, especially with Rocky Mountain just down the street coming after him.
Yep. So that'll be a lot of fun to watch how he does in the offseason programs and all that good stuff for Mountain View football. But we got plenty of winter stuff still going on, and we'll have plenty to talk about again next week on the SIC Prepcast. Wayne, what's your broadcast schedule looking like for this week?
Well, of course, if you're watching this on a Tuesday tonight, if it's early in the evening, I've got that Mountain View and Owyhee game. Then on Friday night, Meridian and Owyhee boys. And then on Saturday afternoon at 3:00, we've got Borah at Mountain View. And like I say, initially that looked like it was going to be a really, really good game to do. Mountain View is running into some injuries, but it's still going to be a critical game. It's going to be interesting to see. It's always good to follow the defending 5A state champs to see what they do, and until they're either in it again or out of it again. And Borah needs a win badly, so this should be a really good game, really hard fought. For some reason, they're tipping it off at 3:00 in the afternoon, but that's okay. Gives me a lot of beauty sleep on Saturday night. So, and I need it.
That's right. He's the hardest working man in show business. No doubt about it, Wayne. A full schedule of games. That's good to hear.
It'll be fun. It's always looking forward to it. And I work with Clay Hatfield, and Clay and I are going to go at it tonight to see what we can do with that game. I'm looking forward to the game tonight. It should be fun.
Yeah. And again, if you're listening to this after the game has already happened, you can go back and listen to Wayne's call of the game just by clicking on the game streams tab at IdahoSports.com and then clicking on the archived broadcasts. We put them all up there on the archive. So,
yep, and always check our scoreboard. Our scoreboard is always up to date. It's great. That's where I get most of my information from. Just go to IdahoSports.com. It makes me a genius.
That's right. All right. Well, we'll get out on that note. I don't want to dirty the water any more than that. So, thanks for tuning into the SIC Prepcast. Enjoy the competition this week, everybody. For Wayne Dzubak, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.